President Trump seemingly mocked the Kingdom of Denmark for allegedly increasing security around Greenland. Here's Trump speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One.
About Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
I think it's a big one.
You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled.
In a recent interview with The Atlantic magazine published on Sunday, President Trump made similar claims. Quote, "They are going to have to view it themselves," Trump said of Greenland citizens. "We do need Greenland, absolutely. We need it for defense."
Now, Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, fired back in a statement on Sunday saying, quote, "The U.S. has no right to annex any of the three countries in the Danish kingdom. I would therefore strongly urge the U.S. to stop the threats against a historically close ally and against another country and another people who have very clearly said that they are not for sale."
Meanwhile, a social media post by Katie Miller, wife of Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, sparked outrage after she shared this image of Greenland covered in a U.S. flag with the caption, "Soon."
Some Trump supporters online made the case that the image is symbolic to American strength. Critics, however, argue that the post trivialized diplomatic relationships and contributed to confusion about U.S. intentions abroad.
Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, however, told CNN's Jake Tapper when questioned about his wife Katie's social media post, "Wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously, Greenland should be part of the United States."
Do you remember last year Vance went to Greenland and his trip got cut really short because of all the backlash? It was just a disaster.
I don't know if that's why or if it was a disaster, but I do remember this.
Well, that's a piece of the puzzle you can't miss. And so I think from March, that trip was in March, to right now, we have been agitating an ally. And it's just confusing to me when you think about the way that we've agitated allies since Trump took office. Think about Canada and the way that we've asked or suggested they should be the 51st country when they said, no, thank you. Even if it was just a quick joke that the president made, he completely kept on repeating it over and over again to the point of agitation, and then treated them like they were China with the tariffs and squeezed them economically when everybody's uncomfortable. And now with Greenland, he keeps on making the same assertions, and the country is saying, no, thank you. We're not for sale. We're also your ally. What are you doing? And so again, people are just confused about the foreign policy of it all and why we would agitate Greenland. I understand he's saying there are boats surrounding Greenland from China and Russia or whatever he's saying. But also, that's not an option that shouldn't be on the table. We can't just go in. And people are, at first people thought it was a joke, but now naturally people are on high alert, particularly after what just happened in Venezuela and the way that the president just started looking at Cuba and everywhere else he doesn't maybe like to say, oh, it might be there next. He's just kind of doing anything. Right. And the foreign policy is, I'm just going to do whatever.
Well, it's not. Yes, there's a realism to what Trump is doing, which is that the Trump administration's view is that post-World War II, this is what Stephen Miller was trying to get into kind of when he talked to Jay Tapper, we've been under the fiction that some international norms constrains bad actors. In reality, it constrains us, but it does not constrain the bad actors. China is not constrained. Russia is not constrained. Look at what they're doing. They are not constrained. We are playing by the rules, and they're not. That is the Trump administration's perspective. Now, I would say that we should play by the rules because it is moral, that we should not... while it might be ideal for Greenland to be part of the United States, I do not think we should. I think it should be up to the people of Greenland. If the people of Greenland want to be part of the U.S., they should be part of the U.S. I don't care what Denmark's claim to it when they landed there hundreds of years ago. If the people of Greenland want to be part of Denmark, they should be part of Denmark. And if they want to be their own country, they should be their own country. They don't want to be part of the U.S., as far as I can tell from the surveying done. So that should be the end of it. We should have strong relations with Greenland, with Denmark, and engage in trade and look for strategies to curb the influence of China and Russia in that sphere. That's what I would say. If they wanted to be part of the U.S., then they should be, but they don't, so we should not swoop in there and take it. That's different than even in the Venezuela example, where we ousted a hated and illegitimate tyrannical leader. who is not the legitimate leader of the country's election. That's different. So Maduro had no legitimacy over Venezuela. Denmark does have legitimacy over Greenland because Denmark's rule is desired by the people of Greenland. They voted. They've had referendums to go on their own, and they've opted to remain part of Denmark. So that should stand. That's the difference. This is why these things are very different.
Well, we don't own Venezuela and we don't own Greenland, and so this is the point. Even if they're different, that the foreign policy.
Doesn't own Venezuela
I know, but we don't, and so the U.S. runs. That's a quote from the president now of Venezuela. So that's part of the issue. But since we're going to stick to Greenland, right? And so if we are talking about an ally that you said we need to work closely with, you would think the first order of business would be talking directly to leadership there about how we can better protect the U.S. and maybe station people there or organize a coordinated relationship so that we feel more protected because they are an ally.
We should like Denmark.
As opposed
Denmark's great.
to,
RFK Jr. wants to make our health system more like Denmark's.
As opposed to just saying what we're going to do, constantly threatening and saying we need them. People think that Trump is more of a push-the-button president and think about it later or react and respond later. When he just makes a knee-jerk reaction decision, and that has been proven a few times with some of the dramatic decisions that he makes and then talks about it later, like the 12-day war with Iran.
Stephen Miller is treating this like it's a game of Risk, and if you take that territory, then you get more troop deployments on your next turn, and then we'll go to Kamchatka and all that.
And his wife, and with him with that.
Well, his wife is just his wife. She's not in the administration.
I know, but the fact that she's
a
vocal and people see it, so the Denmark leadership was responding to her messaging. And so it's like, you're the wife of somebody. Are you guys having like pillow talk about what's possibly next? Like, you're the wife of somebody in the administration who actually wants to move forward. She's not in the administration, but people can actually be alarmed by some of her postings. Like, maybe she has some information that she would like to share, especially on the heels. Why does she do it at this time? She's trying to agitate.
Greenland-shaped pillow?
Yes, she's trying to agitate. And also, I do think that I completely disagree with you regarding China and other countries doing what they want to do, particularly in the case of Greenland. Now there's no argument. So even if you believe President Trump's argument about why he went in Venezuela because somebody there, a leader there, had violated U.S. law in regards to drugs, and so he got him out of there to see his day in court in the U.S. Okay, put that to the side. In Greenland, now we would be taking over that territory because we need it. Well, China thinks that they need Taiwan. And so we do set a precedent which is why I always say with Vladimir Putin, we do set a precedent by allowing people to just do whatever they want or pushing back against Putin. We do set a precedent as the superpower of the world. And so we need to continue to follow through with setting the precedent.
You think there's they took Greenland, now we have our excuse.
I think that China and Russia don't just do whatever they want.
They're going to do whatever they want.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they are constrained by actual limitations, like if we had Greenland, if we have the oil in Venezuela, they have less. The oil in Venezuela doesn't go to those countries, and then they have fewer resources, which makes their conquest of Taiwan more difficult and less likely. Is the counter argument. We're trying to constrain them by grabbing. I mean, this is the affirmative case for what the administration is doing. They're trying to occupy territory. We're entering a two-polar. I mean, Russia is much weaker than China. I don't know if they're really a competitor here. The fear is we're entering a world where you're either controlled by the U.S., you're going to be a U.S.-led thing, or a China-led thing.
So we're just going to beat China to their own game, and that's the foreign policy strategy that you like to stand behind. Because that's what you said. If everybody
those
just
are the only two choices. If the choice is Greenland in the hands of the U.S. or Greenland,
the choice could be everybody relaxed.
Not much of a.
The choice could be everybody relaxed.
But they're
everybody does not just take over
any
space.
China
No,
is not going to relax. They're not relaxed.
Okay.
They are a imperialist, communist, authoritarian nation that wants to conquer the world. And how can we respond to that? I mean,
just conquer the world. Like, this is historic times. Just want to conquer places. That's what we're doing.
I think we're entering a new phase in what the international scene looks like. Well, I don't like it either. I would love to go back to, back when they were a backward country. They didn't have the bomb. They didn't have ability to compete with us, but they have innovated. They have opened their markets in a way that has made them more prosperous while keeping their political system repressive. And that is unfortunately more of a winning combination than we thought in the 90s. In the 90s, we thought liberalization would be automatic. Once you liberalized markets and that prosperity came in, then your political system would liberalize. That was our experience in so much of the world when it moved beyond communism or whatever policies they had, authoritarian policies they had. Where you liberalize all the way. But China, unfortunately, has done some backsliding in terms of its governance. This is very, very dangerous, and we need to be clear-eyed about that. The threat is rising, not just to Taiwan, but to the entire world. And what are we going to do about it? Sit on our hands and say, okay, that's we're the good guys, so
well, the next step
enjoy
is just
Greenland.
Go in and take out another leader we don't like in China.
I'm making the case.
Yeah,
I'm saying this is what the administration
you.
is thinking. I'm not endorsing this view, but this is their concern, and it is a serious concern, and we should take it seriously. Next up, lots more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us.